Hi everyone, it's Lynn, the chief blogger at asummermoon.com, and I am super excited right now because I have a very special guest helping me to start off the Be the Change series with a bang. So I would like to welcome to the second annual Be the Change series, Miss CJ Hayden, the probably more likely the best-selling author of the Get Clients Now book, as well as so many other things. But I'm going to let her tell you all about it and how that has anything to do with the Be the Change series. And I'm pretty sure you're going to be pleasantly surprised. So, Miss CJ Hayden, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, Lynn. And yes, I am the author of Get Clients Now. My relationship to the Be the Change theme, though, is that I work as a coach to entrepreneurs. I've been doing that for about 20 years. And the majority of the entrepreneurs that I work with are somehow engaged in themselves being the change. I work with a lot of people who think of themselves as being social entrepreneurs, entrepreneur philanthropists, professional activists, people who are out there doing something for a business that is enabling them to create positive change in the world. And that's something that's really important to me personally, something that I always make sure that I'm engaged in, and it's something that I help my clients do too.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm going to let you get more into that. But before we even go there, speaking of Be the Change, because that's a phrase that's kind of tossed around a lot. So in your own words, what does Be the Change mean to you?
It means do what you can with what you've got. I read a story once of a man who was feeling as if he didn't really have anything to contribute. He didn't have money, he didn't have skills, he didn't know what he could possibly do that would be a contribution to others. And somebody said to him, "Can you push a broom?" And he said, "Well, yeah, anybody can push a broom." And the man said, "All right, well, pick up your broom and start sweeping." And I think that, to me, is what Be the Change really means. We can do something. It may not be something that we think is world-changing, but if we do just one positive thing that we can do, that's better than years of sitting around thinking about what we might do. So being the change is being action-oriented. Pick up your broom and start.
Excellent, excellent. And I think that's a great way to put it because so many people, especially in that using that example, so many people think they're not making a big difference if they're not traveling the world and you know helping people in developing countries and everything. So something as simple as just picking up the broom and dusting off the cobwebs of whatever spiders are entangling your life. That's a great start.
Yeah, it is. And you can help people in the developing world from your computer keyboard, from your checkbook, from a lot of different places than getting on an airplane and going somewhere. We can all do things, and whatever it is that we should do.
Exactly, exactly. So, speaking of people being able to just do things from their keyboard or, you know, get on a plane and head over to a developing country, you were talking a little bit about the coaches that you work with or the change makers that you work with who are technically entrepreneurs, but they are trying to make a difference, and that doesn't necessarily translate into being the director of a nonprofit. So can you tell me a little bit more about what kind of work that you do and the kind of people that you serve?
Sure. The people I work with, they're not just technically entrepreneurs. They are entrepreneurs for real. There's this term social entrepreneur that was really brought into the public consciousness by a man named Bill Drayton, who's the founder of Ashoka. And sometimes the term social entrepreneur is used to mean somebody who is effecting positive change out in the world using entrepreneurial methods and skills. So they are being entrepreneurial around changing society. The people I work with are truly entrepreneurs. They're making a living at something that nobody is paying them to do. So they're being very entrepreneurial in the work that they do. And there's a lot of different forms that being a social entrepreneur can take. And there's a lot of different words that people use to describe this thing. People use the word social business. They use social enterprise. They sometimes talk about business as being green or sustainable. And those words have come to mean more than just being environmentally positive. Right? The word green is now very often taken to mean not just environmentally positive, but something that is an entire way of being in the world. So a lot of different labels and phrases people use to talk about this way of doing business. But the thing that they all have in common is that you're looking at taking a business model and using that business model to turn the crank, selling products and services to somebody, somewhere, is resulting in positive good in the world. So how does that happen, right? We see a lot of models out there if we just start to keep our eyes open and look for them. Are you familiar with the brand Newman's Own?
I am not, so I would love to hear about it.
Okay, so Newman's Own is a brand of food products started by the actor Paul Newman, who was a philanthropist. So Paul's no longer with us, but Newman's Own lives on. Beautiful example of how you can create a legacy with a social entrepreneurship, social enterprise project. What Paul started doing was he started making spaghetti sauce, and everybody said, "Oh, we love your spaghetti sauce. Your spaghetti sauce is so great. Why don't you sell it?" And he said, "Well, okay, I could do that, but I don't really need more money. I don't really need another thing to run. Hey, what if I were to sell spaghetti sauce and give all the proceeds to charity? Now that would be a cool thing." And that's where the entire brand Newman's Own came from, was the idea of making products that could then be sold and the proceeds donated to charity. So then Newman's Own's expanded way beyond spaghetti sauce, salad dressing, cookies, all sorts of things. And as a result, all of the funds from this business were funneled into charities. So that was Paul Newman's model of being an entrepreneur philanthropist, and a great model it is. Another one that many people have heard of is Tom's Shoes. Do you know them?
I'm learning here.
Okay, cool. So Tom's Shoes is an example. For every pair of shoes you buy from Tom's, a pair of shoes is donated to someone else who needs them. So the founder of Tom's Shoes looked around and he said, what's a really basic thing that people need? People in the developing world need shoes. They need sturdy shoes. They're walking all the time, right? They're having to go collect water. They're having to go to school. They're having to walk to other places to get work. They're having to stand on their feet all day while they sell something in the marketplace, right? They need shoes. That's something a shoemaker can do.
Absolutely.
He can say, all right, well, I can have a business and I can use my business in order to help people. That's the premise for my business. Every pair of shoes you buy from me, a pair of shoes gets donated to somebody. That is a terrific business model and a great example of how you can use a business in order to fund a project that creates positive difference in the world. Sometimes the business itself actually provides positive good. So those are a couple examples of people using the business in one case to create money that's then out doing good, in another case to pay for goods that themselves are donated. Sometimes what people do is they will start a business that in and of itself does good in their community and the world. So there's a company called TerraCycle, and TerraCycle collects stuff that nobody wants. So juice boxes are one of the things that they collect, empty juice boxes. And they turn those juice boxes by recycling into things that other people can use. So they actually get kids involved, right, and say, collect your juice boxes send them in, and we will convert your juice boxes into usable products that people out there in the marketplace can then purchase. So here's a business, fabulous idea, right? Sourcing essentially garbage, right, that otherwise is going to end up in maybe recycling, but probably landfill,
Yeah.
and then turning it into something that's usable and selling that. And as a result, it's an educational project raising the consciousness of kids all around about how things aren't just garbage. Things can be reused. Look around you. What should you be recycling? What could you find another use for? So it's working on multiple levels, a project like that. Those are the kinds of people I love working with because they're so creative, and sometimes they have the big picture, but they're not sure how to put all the pieces together to make that go. And I have gotten pretty good at business strategy, so that's what I help people with a lot. I strategize with them on how can you get from here, you've got an idea on a piece of paper, to there, you've got some kind of enterprise that's up and running that's creating a positive impact.
Excellent, excellent. And the thing is, so many of us, and I'm speaking for myself, and one of my colleagues who later on will go into our field too, who we have our own businesses and we want to do something a little bit more to kick it up a notch beyond just, okay, I'm going to take whatever profits I make at the end of the year and donate it to my charities of choice. There's some of us, me personally, I actually came from a nonprofit background. And so there's still a piece of me that still wants to do that kind of work and be on the forefront, so to speak, of this work. However, still be in my business and do my business because
Right.
what I do is still impactful on who I serve, which obviously I serve coaches and consultants and speakers who, in essence, uplift people mentally in such a way that they can also become change makers.
That's fabulous. And that's a great example of a business that has a positive impact in and of itself just by operating.
Exactly,
My
exactly.
own business is an example, right? Same thing. In and of itself, just by operating, it makes a positive difference in the lives of people who themselves are making a difference out there.
Exactly, exactly. I 100% agree with that because I feel as though after reading your content myself, I felt even more empowered. Like, yes, you know, going back to the broom, I'm pushing it and I'm
Yes,
doing something. I'm making a difference.
absolutely.
Awesome. So we're talking about these wonderful people who, they had money and everything like that, and they could, they decided that despite all that, there was still something that they could give back to the world. And not everybody is at that level. I'm not the richest person in the world as far as money, material. I feel pretty rich in heart though. Uh, but, you know, not everybody feels justified for doing something like that. So, why should someone care to give back?
I think we have all been given to. We have all received at some point in our lives. Maybe it was from our family, maybe it was from our community, gotten things. We've been cared for. We've been fed and clothed and housed. We've been given an education. And some of us had to work harder for those things than others. But nevertheless, people helped us. And I think that it's really being a full human being to keep that cycle going. If other people have helped you get to where you are in any way, shouldn't you give back so that, yeah, the next group of people can come in, whether that's the next generation or people who've been economically marginalized in some way, or people who don't see right now that they too have the power to make a difference and you have a message for them. Those are all ways of giving back. I think we all owe it to the world in which we live to give back at the level that we're able to and that we're capable of.
I don't disagree with you. I couldn't agree more. So I'm like, I'm not even going to harbor on that one because I'm all like, yes, yes, with my purple pen and all. Yes, yes. So, you know, you kind of went over this already, but what does giving back typically look like? Could you kind of recap on that a little bit?
Yeah, it takes a lot of forms. And because of the fact that I, like you, interact with a lot of coaches, I found that many people were really asking me that question. They knew that I worked with people in this change maker category, and they, as coaches, were often asking me that question. So I wrote this book that I know that you know about. Let's
Yeah.
see if I can get that on the camera. There we go. 50 ways that coaches can change the world. To answer that question, right, that coaches were asking me, how can I make a difference? And I said, okay, well, I know there's a lot of ways, and I came up with 50, right, to put in a book and put them into categories. So as a citizen, as an employee or a business owner, you can change the world. You can change the world with your coaching. You can change the world by bringing change to others. And within those categories, I mean, think about all of the possibilities for changing the world just with your coaching, right? You could coach people with disabilities. You could coach in the nonprofit sector. You could coach social entrepreneurs like I do. You could educate the public about coaching as a tool for change. You could design your coaching practice to serve your own highest purpose. You could educate your clients. Imagine educating your corporate clients, right, about social responsibility. There is, in fact, a, a real prominent group of people in the coaching community who think that that's part of what the coach's job should be. We educate people about life balance. Why shouldn't we educate people about social responsibility too? What a concept, right? What if that should be part of the coach's basic agenda? Just like we think things like time management and life balance are. We always say, oh, well, the client sets the agenda. Okay, but the reality is that we, in fact, have a worldview, a perspective of the way that we think things should be. We think people's lives should be. And I don't think I know any coaches who, if a client said to them and said, well, I don't want any life balance, I don't think life balance is important, that the coach would just accept that, right? So if somebody says to you, well, I don't care about social responsibility, I don't think that's important, shouldn't you question that if in fact it's your own belief that it is important and that people should care? It's a place where I think it's appropriate for a coach to have an agenda. Shouldn't be a hidden agenda, should be right out in the open. But it's a place where I'm not afraid to challenge my clients if I hear something going on that's a conflict with my own values about doing what's right for society, for the community, for the environment.
I completely agree. And here's the thing. I have to say, I'm going to have to take that concept to my colleagues, my fellow virtual assistants to coaches and social media managers to coaches. It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing for us. Um, Even though we are here to serve as virtual right hand women and men, we also have a responsibility to want to help the kind of coaches who also have a vision like we do.
Right.
The kind that see the world the way we see it, as in wanting to see peace, wanting to see people be socially responsible, especially when those coaches do have access to the big dogs of corporate. Because a
Right.
lot of the times, corporate America, I know when they do get involved, is usually with cause marketing, and you'll see things like, you go to Wawa. I don't know if you have Wawa there, but we have Wawa. We have lots of Wawas here. And
I know Wawa. We don't
yeah,
have them here, but I know Wawa.
and we'll get a cup and it'll have a donate, something. And just getting the backing of a big corporation like that, it takes one person to get that initiated. So, you
Right.
know, again, it's going back to just individuals just doing their part and wanting to be socially responsible and wanting to be the change.
And to do what you can, I'm going to come back to that because I think that's one of the places people sometimes feel like they can't do something because of various limitations they have. But there's always something. You know, I am one of the co-founders of a group called A Good Deed Tea, and we are these days a women's giving circle. We have a regular group of women who get together for tea once a quarter, and we learn about the charities that we support and have a relationship with those charities where we send them money, they send us back reports and share photos and videos, and we get to know them, we get to know what our money is doing. It's a really lovely model. It feels great on both sides. And we came to that model because those of us who are running a Good Deed Tea, we're all busy entrepreneurial women. And where we started out was we started out by throwing basically fundraisers, putting on tea events and inviting people to come. And what we realized was that we weren't good at that we were too busy, and that it would make a lot more sense for us to use a model where we had ongoing members who were committed to be part of it, and we knew that either they were going to show up or they were going to write their check because that was their commitment. And we didn't have to worry about inviting 100 people and having 10 make it and only 2 of them write checks, right? No, it's not like that. So we looked at, well, what can we do given who we are and what's going on with our lives? And as a result of that, we have multiplied 4 and 5 times the amount of money that we were bringing in for charity with the earlier model. Because instead of trying to struggle with, oh, we should be able to make this work, we said, all right, well, wait a minute. This is what our lives are like. This is how busy we are. This is the level of commitments that we have. What can we do? Hey, what about a membership group, a giving circle? Commitment, ongoing membership, meets once a quarter. That doesn't sound too hard to run. We could do that. And we've been very successful at it, and we have been raising consistently about very close to $5,000 per tea, which is fabulous.
Yes. Yes, it is indeed. Awesome. Well, you kind of answered my next question about how for the for-profit, entrepreneurs and business women such as yourself,
Uh,
and nonprofit leaders can combine their superpowers to make impact. And I thought that was a great example. You come together for tea and you're raising $5,000. So that's nothing to sneeze at. That's for sure.
no, no, it's not. And it's incredibly valuable. You do that 4 times a year, that's $20,000 that we're raising and giving to charities that benefit women and girls in the developing world. So it's something that we could do and that we're doing. So that, the question about superpowers, I think that's a really good one, combining superpowers, because we as independent entrepreneurs are good at one set of things, and people out there in the nonprofit world or people who are working in the field in the developing world, they're good at other things. We have different sets of resources. So what do I have as resources that I can give, and what did those people who I want to help out there, really need? And then let's look for the match between those 2 things. And it's going to be different for everybody. So in my situation, I said, all right, there's a few of us that have a couple of hours to give on a weekly basis to make this thing happen. So we can do that. We can give a couple of hours. We can organize this thing. And by inviting other people and getting them involved in it, we can magnify the amount we can give beyond what we could do if, for example, all we did was we donated the money that we earned with those couple of hours, right? We're magnifying our impact. So we're looking for who needs what we have, what can we give, what can we do? You can, if you've got no money, you can volunteer. You've got time. You can give time by showing up in person and scooping soup into bowls, right? or you can give time in your professional capacity. If you're an accountant, you can do some organizations' books, right? If you're a virtual assistant, you can donate X number of hours on a monthly basis to a charity to help them with their tasks that they can outsource. Whatever your skill set is, whatever your time availability is, people out there can use it. And there's a lot of demand now for virtual volunteers. You don't have money and you don't have time, well, what do you have? Do you have space? So maybe you can provide a place to meet for a group that really needs a place to meet. Do you have an office that you're not using 24 hours a day? Could you provide that space to a charity that actually needs space? Do you have a living room that is big enough to hold a group of people? Could you hold a house party and ask other people to bring food and somebody to bring a film and then pass the hat for a charity? What do you have that you can contribute that somebody else could possibly need? If you keep asking that question, I think you find a match.
I have to agree. I have to agree. And you know what? That was awesome. I didn't even think about, like space and everything. We think about that for other things. It's like, yeah, you can. You have extra office space. You can use space. Like, we need space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. So, I mean, my thoughts are churning because I'm like, yeah, listen to this, guys. Like, this is good stuff. Take notes. I am. Awesome. So, oh my gosh, I'm so enjoying this conversation, and I know because we are both very much so busy entrepreneurs, so I cannot hold you here forever so that we can just talk about how we can make the world a better place. But I can go on and on for days on that one, but I'll tone it back down and bring it back home. So, you know, I always like to leave with one final thought, one action, because as a virtual assistant, I'm all about implementation. So, what's one actionable piece of advice that you can give someone who, might possibly want to start a nonprofit or take up a cause? They are the broom pusher who doesn't think that they can do anything beyond pushing the broom, or they are the virtual assistant who, wants to do something extra, or the coach who, they're coaching wonderful people and they're empowering them, and that's awesome, but they would like to just do something a little bit more. What is one actionable piece of advice that you would like to give?
When I wrote the 50 Ways Coaches Can Change the World book, I realized that after reading this book, people were going to be asking, okay, well, great, but how do I get started? So I put in the back of the book a how to get started piece. And I think that advice about how to get started, it's a really great place for anybody to begin. Choose your path. What issues will you focus on? Who do you wish to support? And if you know what issues and who you want to support, then how best can you make a contribution? Look at your talents, your competencies, your interests, your skills, your training. Look at your assets. Do you have a large mailing list? Do you have lots of blog followers? Do you have space to hold events? Those are all assets that you have. And with those things in mind, the what, the who, and the how, that should enable you to determine where to begin. And then pick up the broom. Whatever's the one closest is the right one. Pick that one up and start sweeping.
Excellent, excellent. I am going to make sure that I put links to that book on the website as well as in the description because, ladies, and I like to say, fellow superheroines and superheroes too, that's a whole book full of ideas that, you can capitalize on. And books are affordable. They're affordable, and it's tons of valuable content. So I'm definitely going to put that book up on the site. And is that something that can only be purchased via the site, or if somebody looks that up on Amazon, would they be able to get it there as well?
Yes, they can. It's on Amazon and also multiple other online booksellers. It's available in paperback, Kindle, and EPUB. So you can get it just about anywhere.
Perfect. So look, anybody who's all like, I want to be sustainable, you can get it on Kindle and read it online.
That's right.
Awesome. So wow, this was really awesome. I'm kind of like, you know, mentor stroke, because in a way I have been looking up to you since I discovered the Get Clients Now program via um, one of your facilitators, Donna, who is, you know, a fellow colleague of mine, and who I took the program with. So I'm really excited. So I'm like just going through my notes real quick. I'm like, I make sure I asked everything. I think I covered everything. I think this was awesome, and I am so very, very grateful that you took some time out to just give us, you know, some awesome wisdom. And if there's anything that you would like to add or anything, by all means, feel free.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I just want to say that I love this project that you're doing. I think having a whole month of focusing on Be the Change is a beautiful example of what can one person do. Imagine how many people you'll be able to impact and inspire with a project like this in just 1 month. It's a marvelous project, and I applaud you for having the idea, and not just having the idea, but putting it into action.
Thank you. And you know what? I don't think I mentioned it before. 'Cause I think somebody asked me why I choose August. August is actually the month of my birth. My birthday is in August. So this is my way of celebrating my birthday. And this is how I choose to celebrate it. So again, CJ, thank you so much for your time. And everyone, thank you so much for watching. And I suppose take care.
You're welcome, Lynn. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.